This here is a site that is all too familiar to many Melburnians. Sprawling over 17,200 metres squared is this, the infamous Springvale Junction, also known as Spaghetti Junction. Not only is it huge, but it's also Victoria's worst black spot for crashes and one of the most complex intersections in Australia. Although Sydney is having a red hot go at taking that title from us as usual with the recent WestConnex interchange at Rozelle. The reason for why this is so complicated is that four major roads all meet in more or less the same place, but not quite. Here in the southeastern suburb of Mulgrave, Springvale Road, Police Road, the Princes Highway and Centre Road all intersect here, but none of them meet at right angles or fully align with each other, resulting in a maze of turning lanes, slip lanes and signs, not to mention the absolute nightmare of trying to cross if you're walking or on a bike. So how on earth did this happen? Well, the Princes Highway, also known as Dandenong Road or Gippsland Road, was the first out of these to be built in 1858. It began as a goat track leading from Melbourne down to what was then the town of Dandenong. You could then travel onwards to Gippsland and access all the farms and goldfields in the area. Because back then Melbourne was much smaller without as many buildings in the way, the road took the most direct route, more or less a diagonal line leading southeast from the city. And it stayed on mostly the same alignment ever since. Centre Road was technically in place even earlier, being part of Henty's special survey back in 1841, and formed the central axis through his subdivision, hence its name. But this section was further west towards Bentley rather than out here in Mulgrave, which wasn't built yet. I can't find an exact date, but this eastern section seems to have been built in the early 1900s. Although if anyone has more specific information, please do let me know. Police Road, named because it led to the police paddocks where horses were kept further east near Listerfield, was also built at around the same time, and was originally known as Police Paddocks Road for this reason. It was constructed sometime between 1900 and 1915. And finally we come to Springvale Road. Unfortunately again I can't find a date for when this section was built, but originally its name was split into two, so it was called Springvale, like the suburb it took its name from. Its original route didn't actually meet the Princes Highway where it does today. Seen in this aerial photo from 1945 is a sharp turn to meet the Princes Highway at a 90-degree angle just west of the present-day junction. This turn actually still exists today as the service road for the shopping strip in the northwest corner. North of here, its original route had deviated slightly because of a creek. This creek was to cause many flooding issues for both local and state governments for many decades. But what's of interest to us here is that this creek meant that Springvale Road ran slightly east of its otherwise straight alignment. This is why there is still a slight deviation to this day just south of Wellington Road. And so as Melbourne continued to rapidly expand, the intersection became busier and busier. By 1959, the Country Roads Board, alarmed at the rate of crashes and urged on by local councils, decided to try to fix it. In this same year, they completely rebuilt it into more or less the current layout. This involved greatly expanding the road footprints, sealing surfaces with asphalt and installing more turning lanes. This aerial photo shows what it looked like soon after it was built. But of course this didn't do much to help, and crashes continued more or less unabated. The rapid population growth of Melbourne and the huge road and parking expansion programs of successive governments resulted in thousands more people travelling through here in cars, together with more buses, bikes and people on foot. This graph from the Country Roads Board shows the massive increase in traffic on the Princes Highway west of Springvale Road, growing from just 1,500 per day in 1946 to over 16,000 in 1960. Gradual widening of all these roads leading here continued to expand the amount of asphalt at the intersection and fed ever more cars into the junction. The Princes Highway was widened from 4 to 6 lanes in 1964, Springvale Road was rebuilt as a divided road north of this intersection up to Ferntree Gully Road in 1965, and Centre Road was widened in 1972. These were the last significant changes at Springvale Junction, and despite ongoing suggestions to fix it, no major changes were made. There was a report done by Vic Roads in 1998 on building an overpass, but unfortunately I don't have access to a copy. This situation remained until 2016, when Vic Roads announced the Springvale Junction Improvement Project. By this time, there had been 58 crashes resulting in death or serious injury in just 5 years, between 2010 and 2015. After some community consultation and investigation, the report came up with the following options. Building an overpass or underpass to grade separate the Princes Highway from the other roads, implement right turning restrictions, implement a P-turn similar to Swan Street and Punt Road in Richmond, reduce the speed limits, replace the intersection with a giant roundabout, or close Centre Road and/or Police Road. But in the end, none of these were implemented and the intersection remains as you see it today. So what do you think is Melbourne's most confusing intersection? Is it Springvale Junction or somewhere else? Let me know in the comments below and I might just get around to looking at its history as well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, please subscribe to my channel so that you can stay up to date on future videos. Also feel free to visit my website at philipmallis.com. Thanks again and I'll see you next time.